Today I'm going to show you the GridBuddy application and show you some of the ways that GridBuddy makes your user experience better in Salesforce. To begin, let's start with a listing page. The idea behind GridBuddy is, wouldn't it be cool if you could easily create, edit, and delete multiple records on this view without having to leave the page, and you had access to the related objects? Well, with GridBuddy, you can do just that. So here I'm going to load a grid I've created and integrate it as a web tab in Sales View called Accounts with Related Objects. So when I click the tab, it's going to load what we call the grid. Think of the grid as just another view of your data in Salesforce. So for Accounts with Related Objects, I've defined account as my parent object, and I'm showing an account record with different fields from the account. You'll see here I have multiple accounts across the page, and for each account I'm showing related cases, tasks, opportunities, and a custom object record. I'll expand all to get a better look. The basic idea behind GridBuddy is I can go through these records and apply changes across multiple objects. You'll see here we support multiple different field types, and as I make my changes, it's going to turn orange so I can keep track of what I'm doing. So here I've made about 5 changes across multiple objects. I hit save once, and it's going to save my changes across the related records. You can also do some other cool things from this view. So this is the Create New button. When I click this, it's going to allow me to create records on both the parent and child level. So here I'll create a new account, and let's put 2 new tasks under the account and a new opportunity. You'll see here that some fields are highlighted in red. Those are my required fields that I need to save. And you'll see here, even though I didn't bring close date into my view, we're still going to append it to the grid so you can always create new, assuming you have permissions. You can also delete records from the same screen. Now, of course, this is going to be subject to Salesforce user permissions, as are all CRUD operations we support in GridBuddy. So to delete, I'm going to select a record and hit the delete button. We'll always ask the user if they're sure. If I say OK, I'm going to delete the parent record and do a cascade delete on the cases and opportunities. Another thing to note is that the delete button and all the buttons you see across the top, as well as how many records you're showing in a single view, is all configurable when you create the grid. GridBuddy also has a mass update feature. So when I click the mass update button, from here you're going to see a view of every field you've brought onto the grid, including the related objects. And here I can define a value for each of these fields that I can mass update on the grid. So here I've made some changes, and you'll see my changes in orange again. I can either select individual records on my grid to get this change by hitting the Apply to Selected Records button. And you can see here I just made a change to these 3 records. Or I could hit the Apply to All Records button, and that's going to apply my change to every record that it finds in this view. Note that if you are paginated in your view, you're only going to make the change to page 1. And again, when I'm happy with my changes, I'll hit save once, and it'll save back to all the records I've affected. GridBuddy also supports a user-defined filter. And when that is, when the admin went and created this grid, they created a set of filter conditions that got applied to the grid as a whole. When I come in as a user and hit the filter button, I can change those. So here we have another widget that brings up a view that's very similar to step 3 of our grid wizard. So here I'm showing the default filter conditions that were set when this grid was created. I can go in now and say I only want to see my records, create a new filter condition. Let's say I only want to see the account names that contain new. I can make a change to the advanced filter conditions. I can do exception reporting by saying maybe I only want to see accounts that have opportunity results. Make a change to the sort by field, the max number of records, And you can see here I can make changes to all the objects I've brought onto the grid. When I'm happy with my changes, I'll hit save, and that's going to apply the user-defined filter. You'll see here when GridBuddy reloads, I'm now showing the records that meet my user-defined filter criteria. If at any point I want to go back, I would simply hit the filter button again and click the revert button to go back to the default. GridBuddy also now supports dependent pick lists within the grid. So here you'll see I have a product controller field and a product field. The product field is a dependent field on the controller. So you'll see here when I make a change to the controlling field, it's going to also highlight the product field and show me a unique set of values. And when I change it, it's going to show me a different set of values based on the controlling field. These dependency definitions are read from however you define them in the Salesforce.com setup menu. So again, make your change, hit save, and it's going to save to both fields. Thank you for checking out GridBuddy. You can visit us on our website, www.salesforceappbuddy.com, to view other videos on how to create a grid and how to integrate a grid into a record detail page. You can also find us on Twitter at sfappbuddy.com. And if you're interested in a free 15-minute consultation, send us an email at info@salesforceappbuddy.com. Thanks!